Oh, hello, good people of world. My name is Chad Stockslager, and I'm very excited to have you here with me tonight. I apologize for our brief delay. We've got only the finest local chimpanzees running all of the equipment. Ah, yes, you should have seen him bouncing the ball earlier. Most impressive. But now that we're here together, I'd like to take this opportunity to point out what a special thing it is in these dark moments to enjoy a bit of levity, to celebrate our good humor, even in our most grim moments. So tonight I would like to present to you a parade of impeccable nonsense, the likes of which we've never known. Ah, yes, an endless parade of chicanery and tomfoolery of the highest order. Oh, there'll be flim-flam, there'll be jim-jam, there'll be some flibber and some flabber and some flibbity-flu. So if you're ready to take this journey with me, folks, why don't we move on to our first stop? Right this way. Hey, Alexa, knock it off. Hello again. I'd like to go ahead and take this opportunity to thank our proud sponsor. That's right, eCam, offering only the finest and most sensible way to live stream. Ah, yes, eCam. Sounds entirely made up. You know, when things get a little moody, people tend to want to lean into some happier, upbeat material, just to give themselves a little pep in their step. And in these particularly dark hours, one is tempted to perhaps reach for the more upbeat material. But unfortunately for me, even before this global crisis, I was already feeling a little blue. So for me, the current mood rings true. And I see no reason to rock the ship now. So if you will indulge me, I'd like to carry on here with an original song that I haven't had much time to do anything with, but I'd love to share with you now. It goes a little something like this. What does it mean when you want it so bad, but you can't find the word for the thing that you had? And everybody just reminds you it's so sad. Oh, I'd be relieved by the warmth of your touch, the sound of your voice, how I miss it so much. Tell me now, is it a comfort or a curse? Oh, when you try hard to sleep in the bed you only made when you were certain you were never coming back. It's not so easy to be loved when it feels like love isn't enough. But I don't want to quit you, girl, and I won't give up. I don't want to give up, 'cause I still believe there's a hope for us yet. And I keep coming on that you won't soon forget. Loved you from the moment that we met. Oh, we could fall fast asleep in the bed you only made in the bed you only made when you were certain you were never coming back. Oh, my sweet baby, come back. Well, I certainly thank you for that indulgence. I know it seemed particularly mopey, but trust me, there's more of that to come. But why don't we take things up a little notch? I'd like to move on to another portion of this elaborate chateau and celebrate a tale of my sad and tragic youth. Won't you join me? Alexa, give me something spicy. Oh, hello. It's me. Alexa, something smooth and mellow. Ah, yes. At this point in the program, I'd like to tell you a tale. One that brings shivers to the heart of both man and child. It's a sad tale, but true. And I remember it oh so well. It was the spring of my 8th grade year. A buddy of mine and I had gone over to the high school to witness a sporting match with the varsity team. It was a small town, there wasn't much else to do, but there was always something cooking down at the old high school. Well, so when we arrived, sure enough, there she was. For the purposes of our story, we'll change her name. We'll call her Flamey Barwell. Oh boy, and she was the fairest in all the land. Oh, I remember long hours sitting around the old library table, me and my buddies, just imagining what it would be like to go out on a date with Flamey Barwell. Well, so it was at this spirited sporting match when there she was, Flamey Barwell, sitting right in front of me. And I overhear her as she tells her fella that she had dropped her brush under the bleachers. And when she politely asked him to grab it for her, he said no. Well, little did she know, one of my most famous tricks in those days was being able to crawl through the cracks of the bleachers. Oh, yes, so I hesitated not 1 second to tap her on the shoulder and say, "Oh, Flamey, I could fetch your brush." Well, she was quite pleased, as you can imagine. And so I set about to perform my amazing feat. Now, granted, it had been some years since I had attempted this, so you can imagine what happened next. Oh, I slipped through, and the body went through at first just fine. I was still quite scrappy, and everything was going according to plan until we got to the head. Next thing I know, My bulbous little 8th grade head is sticking out between the cracks of those bleachers, with the cheeks flush with the blood of shame. Oh boy, I was like an overly ripe tomato. And everyone laughed, and I heard them laughing, and I still hear them laughing. Eventually, someone went below the bleachers and helped me out. But things were never the same, and every time I saw Flamey Blarwell from that day forward, I distinctly detected the giggles of her and her friends, even if they weren't even looking at me. Those giggles still haunt my dreams. So here's to you, Flamey Barwell. We'll see you in hell. Let's move on, shall we? Oh, hello again. Hey Alexa, cut it out. Welcome back. Well, I gotta tell you, telling that old tale was a little more intense than I expected. Well, what can I say? Old heartbreak dies hard. Sometimes, even whenever you really hope for the best, and you're pulling for it with all you've got, there comes a point where every good human being with any sense of reason or logic has to eventually say, enough's enough. And it may take you quite a while to get there, but when it does, it's important to embrace these changes as much as possible. I'm not sure if any of that makes sense, but I'd like to carry on here with a song that I'd like to think does. It's another new one that I haven't really trotted out yet, but I hope you enjoy it. Goodbye, my darling. Goodbye, my precious love. Though it's been some time since you've come around, words don't come easy when you know they might be the last. Still, we can't go on living in the past. Oh, now why can't a good thing last? I know you got your reason for falling away. And even though I might get lonely sometimes, well, I need you to hear me when I say I can't keep trying when I know it won't change a thing. Our love was just a dream, and it's fading fast. Oh, now why can't a good thing last? Now I don't really blame you, honey, for falling away. And you know I get so lonely sometimes, but I need you to hear me when I say goodbye. get so lonely sometimes, but I need you to hear me when I say goodbye, my darling, goodbye, my precious love. I know it took some time for me to come around. Okay. Hey Alexa, why don't you give us a little transition music while we move on to the next bit of nonsense? Hey Alexa, why don't we try something even more mellow? Thank you, Alexa. Now I can't be sure where I heard it said, or perhaps if it was just in some sort of strange fever dream. But it's my understanding that April is in fact National Poetry Month. Again, I have no way of confirming that, but let's just run with it, shall we? I figured, while we're all stuck inside, even I in this luxurious chateau, it's the perfect time to reach for the dusty old books and see if we can't find some great poems of the old days. Yes, what better than the written word to lighten our path? This one I'd like to start off with was submitted by a very dear old friend of mine, Mr. Paint Smith. I'd like to send this one out to him, a lovely Sylvia Plath that he sent me, and I certainly hope you'll enjoy it. Sheep in fog. The hills step off into whiteness. People or stars regard me sadly. I disappoint them. The train leaves a line of breath. Oh, slow horse, the color of dust. Hooves, dolorous bells. All morning, the morning has been blackening. A flower left out, my bones hold a stillness. The far fields melt my heart. They threaten to let me through to a heaven, starless and fatherless, a dark water. Nice. Well, while Paint may go for the classics, I like more contemporary writers, like the great Leonard Nimoy. Ah yes, known for his fine work as Spock on television, he's lesser known for his poetry. Let's see what he's got to say, shall we? Oh, this looks like a good one. When you touch me, I am deeply touched, far deeper than the depth of skin or flesh. You touch the core, the secret cave of my being. You touch the dream place that some call heart, some call soul. For me, it has no name, but me. When you touch me, you touch me. Leonard Nimoy. Available wherever weirdo books are sold. All right, well, that's enough poetry. But this next section, I'd like to introduce you to some exciting new products that I've discovered in recent times. This last Christmas, I was struggling to find just the right gift for my young boy, Levon. Ah, yes, Levon, the apple of my eye, my pride and joy. and a very difficult kiddo to shop for, I'll be honest. So when combing the racks, you can imagine how pleased I was when I came across this exciting new product. Now, it may be new to you and me, but the concept, I should say, may be quite old. This is called the Buddha board. And if you have any idea of Buddhism, it's basically a philosophy that allows you to realize that existence is suffering, and suffering has a cause, whether it's craving or attachment, be it to a troubled past or an unknown future. And I'd like to think that this product celebrates those things quite well. It's very simple to set up, and I'd love to give you a little demo, if I may, with this psychotic tinkling of music framing our every move. So first you take this little bento box and you put it on a flat surface, see? And then you take this board and you set it right over here, yes. And then you take some water and you pour it into the bento box, like so. Then you take your brush and you create your beautiful piece of art. Now the beauty of this is that it doesn't remain. Soon enough it will disappear, allowing you to exist solely in the moment, not concerned with what has been or what shall be, but rather what is. The Buddha box, holding the Buddha board. Perfect for any small town gathering. Maybe you and your family could gather around the old fireplace and do some invisible artwork. But I'd like to move on to our next section, if I may. While everyone's holed up in their homes, it's important to stay fit. And what I find is most difficult to do is to try to keep up with Jane Fonda or Gene Simmons. I mean, I feel like I've been sweating to the oldies every day. But I think I've come up with just the right workout for those music-loving fans out there that we can all enjoy. Let's see. Oh, Alexa, please. Okay. Now, by now, we're surely all familiar with the sounds of the Rolling Stones. But few people know that imitating the dance moves of one Mick Jagger can provide you just the right amount of home-style workout. We're going to start off very slow, and I'm going to walk you through some of the paces. You don't want to hurt yourself, so we go in easy. First, a little chicken flat. You want to do about 8 reps of that. Turn, and again. Turn, and again. Again, this is chicken flat. We're getting in easy. Next thing you want to know is work in a little bit of the sassy slap. All right. Then we'll give a little donkey kick. You can feel the pounds just melting away. And now for the coup de grace, the piece de resistance. We stir the pot. And when you feel you're finally ready, we combine all the moves for a true sweaty cardiovascular workout. Whew. I don't know about you guys, but that's quite a workout. Whew. I'm going to move on into the piano scene. We'll try another song, see if we can cool this party down. Let's keep that music up, Alexa. Okay. Oh, no, Alexa, let's hold off on that one, Alexa. Hold off on that tune. Okay. Oh, boy, I tell you, it's so hard to find a good automated system these days. That's quite all right. Okay. I hope everybody's doing okay out there. Yes, you're still with us? Oh, Lord have mercy. This has been a lot of work, and I'm not quite sure what the hell's going on, but let's just keep going, shall we? Okay, so with people being told to stay at home, social distancing a must, and this cruel dark plague descending upon our everyday, it kind of made me think about a song a buddy of mine and I wrote many years ago. My dear friend Adam Cole and I composed this tune, and we were trying to imagine what would happen when all the lights went out at your favorite grocery store, and all of the characters from every cereal box, every frozen bag of vegetables, all spring to life. What would their life be like? What would happen in the dark with, say, Captain Crunch? And it just kind of made me think about that, and I'd like to send this one out to Adam. Ain't your mama, won't you tell me, please, why Uncle Ben slept with Sarah Lee? Who's gonna tell little Debbie? Dr. Pepper, won't you get here quick, 'cause Mrs. Fields is feeling awful sick, and old Mr. Pibb is placing a bet that the Marlboro Man smokes cigarettes, and Mrs. Butterworth is having a tryst with Captain Crunch and the Gordons fishermen. They keep the Keebler elves as pets, while Mr. Clean cleans up their mess, and Toucan Sam is doing mountains of blow, while the Jolly Green Giant eats a sloppy Joe, and Smokey the Bear is losing control, 'cause Count Chocula is loading a bowl, and Crapple Popper all down the hall, they're with the Kool-Aid Man, they're snorting Adderall. The Pillsbury Doughboy's starting to cry as Tony the Tiger eats him alive. Chester Cheetah now lives in a shack since he lost his job 'cause he threw out his back. And Charlie the Tuna is being tried in the death of Long John Silver's wife. And Mrs. Baird's now sits in a cell while Betty Crocker sleeps with men in cheap motels. The California Raisins are living the dream with their timeshare promises and pyramid schemes. Chef Boyardee was unable to move. They had to lift him with a crane through a hole in his roof. And Elsie the cow is now rolling in pain. She's trying to get her fix, but she keeps missing the vein. The Energizer Bunny never takes a break. He bangs a drum on the ship that is paddled by slaves. They head to the tower made of silver and gold, when Mr. Peanut cracks a smile as the story unfolds. His hand on the button, he fulfills the plan. As the cage door opens, it's the Michelin Man, who emerges from the haze with a deafening cry. As the madness begins, the tires fall from the sky. The rivers turn to blood and the locusts swarm. The horsemen arrive and Gabriel blows his horn. There's a single tear in the peanut eye. He says it's finished now, and the peanut dies. R.I.P., Mr. Peanut. We'll surely see you in hell. But speaking of my boy, as I was earlier, I'd like to treat you now to something that's very special in our household. Why, it's an old story that my mammy read to me when I was but a lad, and it's long since been a favorite with my young boy. I'd like to share it to you now in a section we call Reading from Children's Stories. Won't you join me? Hit it, Alexa! Ah, yes. Oh, you can play the next song, Alexa. All right. Alexa's a little slow tonight. Yes. How's that? Doing good. Ah, yes. Andrew Henry's Meadow. Written by Doris Byrne, who also did the illustrations. Sorry. Until that spring, Andrew Henry Thatcher lived with his family in the town of Stubbsville. He had a father and mother and two older sisters named Marion and Martha. The girls were always with each other. He also had two younger brothers named Robert and Ronald. They were always with each other too. Andrew Henry was in the middle. He was always with himself, yet he didn't mind. He had plenty of things to do. Mrs. Thatcher was usually busy in the kitchen, but Mr. Thatcher was tired when he came home from work. He liked to read the paper and have things quiet. Marion and Martha liked to sew or try new ways to wear their hair. Robert and Ronald liked to play with toy cars and coloring books. But Andrew Henry liked to build things. See the little frog? Mrs. Thatcher was unhappy when Andrew Henry built a helicopter in the kitchen. The helicopter had many fine features. Nevertheless, she said to him firmly, "Andrew Henry, I have work to do. You must take that thing out of that kitchen." Then Andrew Henry built an eagle's cage in the living room, and Mr. Thatcher was annoyed. It was a fine eagle's cage. An eagle would have liked it, but Mr. Thatcher didn't. He told Andrew Henry to go outside and take the eagle's cage with him. When Marion and Martha saw the merry-go-round Andrew Henry had hitched up to the sewing machine, they were upset. It went around nicely, too, but they told him to unhitch it and to do it right now. Robert and Ronald didn't even like the system of pulleys Andrew Henry rigged up in their room, although it could close the door, fetch the crayon box, and lift the table 1.5 feet off the floor. They cried, "You're always spoiling our fun, Andrew Henry. Leave us alone." Andrew Henry thought about it more and more. One fine spring morning, he made up his mind. Quietly, he gathered together his tools. He packed his hammer and his saw, his pocket knife and pliers, a big sack of nails, some bolts, nuts, and wire, and even a few lengths of stovepipe. "I'll build a house for myself," he said to himself. He went out the back door and down the path. He knew where he was going. No one saw Andrew Henry leave except the Thatcher's dog, Sam. As usual, Sam started to follow Andrew Henry, but this time Andrew Henry told him firmly that he must stay home. Sam was a good dog, so he sat down by the gate in the shade of the lilac bush and watched until Andrew Henry was out of sight. Andrew Henry walked kitty-corner through Burdock's pasture and climbed up over Blackbriar Hill. Then he went out across Wierzbowski's swamp and in through the deep woods. Finally, he came to a meadow. A stream wandered through the meadow, sparkling in the sunlight. On one side was a tall fir tree, straight and strong. Andrew Henry walked right over to that fir tree. He dropped his tools beside it and looked the ground over. "Here is where I'll build my house," he said to himself. He set to work, and before long the house was finished. The walls were made of clay and rocks and poles. The roof was made of fir boughs, and outside the window there was a fine landing field for dragonflies. But Andrew Henry wasn't alone long. Soon Alice Burdock stepped out from the deep woods. She had her bird things with her. Mr. Burdock, who was a farmer, didn't care for the birds. They ate his cherries, scratched up his corn, and nested in his barn. He put scarecrows in the cornfield and tied tin cans in the cherry trees to scare away the birds. He even kept 4 cats in the barn to discourage the swallows from nesting there. But Alice liked birds. She had brought along what she could. "Andrew Henry, will you build me a house too?" she asked. "Sure thing," Andrew Henry said. It was a nice house, especially for a person who liked birds. A ladder climbed up straight the trunk of the old tree to the house. There were plenty of bird baths and feeding stations. There were bird houses and a balcony for watching birds, and even a handy rest for Alice's binoculars when she wasn't using them. See? Next, out of the deep woods came George Turner. He had most of his boats, all of his fishing poles, and his biggest paddle wheel. Mrs. Turner didn't like him to use the things in the bathtub. George wanted Andrew Henry to build him a house too. Sure thing, Andrew Henry said. First they built a bridge over the creek. Then they built the house on the bridge so that George could be near the water. The house had docks for the boats and built-in fishing poles. The paddle wheel worked a fan to keep George cool. It was surprising how much power that paddle wheel had. Then Joe Pulaski arrived. They built him a dugout house. The door was on the roof and the chimney stuck out of the ground. Joe wanted an underground house so that his pets would be comfortable. He had a gray mice and white mice and a pet mole and a pair of brown rabbits. The house had rooms and passageways for his pets. The mole's passageways were wonderfully misleading. Jane O'Malley and Margot Laporte showed up next. Andrew Henry built Jane a house that looked like a castle with turrets. They dug a ditch around it, which filled up the water from the creek. The ditch made a useful moat, especially when the drawbridge was up. Jane had her dress-up clothes with her. She hoped her mother wouldn't miss them too much. She explained that they made her feel like Lady Jane instead of just plain Jane. Good for you, Jane. Margot's house was tall in the middle like a teepee, but it had a long, low entrance like an igloo. She needed privacy for her music. Visitors had to crawl on their stomachs. They also had to give 3 toots on the horn she had hung beside the door. Sometimes Margot didn't answer because she couldn't always hear the horn when she was practicing. Down the hill, across the swamp, and into the woods came 3 more children. Sarah Lerner had a cookie sheet full of mud cakes her mother made her take out of the oven. Don Peterson had a dresser drawer full of dandelion seeds he had been saving to use for parachutes. Stanley Hayes had the 2 racing toads his father wouldn't let him keep in the basement. Soon 9 houses stood in the meadow. It looked like a small village. But in Stubbsville, the Thatchers were looking for Andrew Henry, and the Burdocks were looking for Alice. Soon the Turners, the Pulaskis, the O'Malleys, the Laportes, the Lerners, the Petersons, the Hayes, all began looking for their missing children. For 4 days and 4 nights, everyone searched frantically. They hunted in the fields and in the barns, the buildings and the vacant lots, but the children could not be found. The only one who wasn't searching was the Thatcher's dog, Sam. He sat quietly under the lilac bush by the gate. Sam was a good dog, but he was very lonesome. As he gazed sorrowfully out toward the far corner of Burdock's pasture, the lonesomeness in Sam grew and grew and grew. Finally, it grew too big even for a good dog. On the morning of the 5th day, Sam raised his head and outpoured a long, aching howl. He sprang to his feet and raced for the near corner of Burdock's pasture. The townspeople all heard the howl and saw Sam racing off with his nose to the ground. "The dog has found their trail! Follow Sam! Hooray for Sam!" Sam ran kitty-corner through Burdock's pasture. The fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, even the cats and dogs of the missing children, all ran kitty-corner after him. They climbed up over Blackbriar Hill and went across Wierzbski Swamp and in through the deep wood until they came to a meadow. It was Andrew Henry's meadow. There were the children. Oh, what excitement! The 9 children, their parents, and all their sisters and brothers met with shouts of joy. They laughed and hugged each other. The fathers and mothers were too happy to scold or to ask any questions. Their children were safe. Andrew Henry and his friends were happy too. They had been away from home for 4 long days and 4 very long nights. The village in the meadow had been wonderful. They would not forget it. But they missed their mothers and fathers, their sisters and brothers, and their cats and dogs. They were ready to go home. The Thatchers gave Andrew Henry the corner of the basement behind the furnace just to build things in. He built a roller coaster for Robert and Ronald's toy cars by using a bucket and parts of an old electric fan. He made a hairdryer for Marion and Martha. The pipe filler he made for his father worked the same way a bird feeder does, and he was especially proud of the automatic table setter he made for his mother, although it did take up a lot of room. Andrew Henry was pleased to have such a fine place to work, and his family was always curious to see what Andrew Henry would build next. The end. Oh, yes. Ooh, what's that rustling I hear? Now, what could that be off on yon? What the? Now, Alexa, is there some music that should be playing here? I don't know. Oh. Well, now, what's that rustling I hear? It sounds like it's coming from the basement. Oh, well, now, what the? My eyes don't see so well from reading that book sideways. Well, do my eyes deceive me? Well, who could that be? He's taking his time. It's quite a staircase. And, well, if it isn't my old friend, Mr. Danny Balis. Oh, as I live and breathe. Oh, what a surprise.
It's nice to see you, Chad.
Well,
I had no idea Crime and Punishment was a children's book.
yes. It's
A little long.
Okay. That's enough out of you. Okay, so, Alexa, why don't you give us a second? Okay. So, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay. I feel like it's been a hot minute.
It's been a while. I've been back in the Gene Simmons green room watching your show on a monitor, and I must say I have no idea why you invited me.
Oh, well.
Because you're killing it.
Oh, please.
Completely on your own.
Well.
Other than the children's book. It's kind of long.
Okay. Well, I thought we were playing the bit like you had been stuck down in the basement. Nobody knew where you were, but we'll go with this other way. So, here you are now.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the things that I miss most about getting together with my dear friends is, our rowdy good time drinking at the bar.
It's pretty much the only time we see one another.
We need to change that. Maybe this will be the start of something new in the midst of a global plague.
Sounds good.
Well, why don't we relive some of those old-time moments with some spirited honky-tonk that takes us back to our good-time drinking days.
Sounds good to me. Let's start with a little Merle Haggard, shall we?
All right.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. 1, 2, 1, 2. This old smoke-filled bar ain't something I'm not used to, but I gave up my home to see you satisfied, and I just called to let you know where I'll be living. It's not much, but I feel welcome here inside. And I've got swinging doors, a jukebox, and a bar stool. And my new home has a flashing neon sign. Stop by and see me anytime you want to, 'cause I'm always here at home till closing time. Oh, take it away.
All right.
I've got everything I need to drive me crazy. I've got everything it takes to lose my mind. And in here the atmosphere is prime for heartache. Thanks to you I'm always here till closing time. Help me out now. And I've got swinging doors, a jukebox, and a bar stool. And my new home has a flashing neon sign. Stop by and see me anytime you want to. 'Cause I'm always here at home till closing time. Yeah, I'm always here at home till closing time. That's a mighty fine piano playing there, Chad.
Well, it's a little rusty. It's been a hot minute. But I do enjoy playing those old-time honky-tonk tunes.
Me too.
Well, why don't we strike up another one?
Well, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's go way back into the past, into the 1900s,
Oh.
with maybe a little Ernest Tubb.
Uh-huh.
This song is called Driving Nails in My Coffin.
All right.
I'll start it and you just fall right in.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, here we go. A little slower than normal.
Oh.
My sweetheart's gone and I'm so lonesome. She said that she and I were through. So I started drinking just for pastime. Now I'm driving those nails over you. I'm just driving nails in my coffin. Every time I drink a bottle of booze, I'm just driving nails in my coffin. I'm just driving those nails over you. All right. Yeah. Ever since the night that she left me, I've been so sad and so blue. And I'm always worried about you, love. And I just can't quit drinking that old booze. I'm just driving nails in my coffin. Every time I drink a bottle of booze, I'm just driving nails in my coffin. I'm just driving those nails over you. Here we go.
I'm just driving nails in my coffin.
I'm just driving nails in my coffin. Every time I drink a bottle of booze, I'm just driving nails in my coffin. I'm just driving those nails over you. One more time. I'm just driving nails in my coffin. Every time I drink a bottle of booze, I'm just driving nails in my coffin. I'm just driving those nails over you. I'm just driving those nails over you.
All right.
That's pretty good. You did real good on that one, Chad.
Well, I don't know. I think that was a sloppy mess. But why don't we go out strong with one that we both really know?
Okay.
All right.
You sure about this?
Well, let's give it a shot.
All right, we'll do a 4-5-1 on that on the intro.
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right. Is anybody watching this?
How could anyone know? That's
Did you take the lens cap off? All right. See you, Simone. Here we go. 1, 2. Papa top again. I think I'll have another round, another one, my friend. Then I'll be gone and you can let some other fool sit down. I'd like for you to listen to a joke I heard today from a woman who said she was through, then calmly walked away. tried to smile and did a while, but it felt so out of place. Did you ever hear of a clown with teardrops streaming down his face? Papa Top again. I think I'll have another round, another one, my friend. Then I'll be gone and you can let some other fool sit down. Keep change. All for me is misery, and here I'm wasting time. 'Cause a row of fools on a row of stools, it's not what's on my mind. And then you see her leaving me, it's not what I prefer. So it's either here drinking beer or home remembering her. Papa Top again. I think I'll have another round, another one, my friend. And I'll be gone and you can let some other fool sit down. Now, wasn't that something?
Well, I should say.
Yep.
Well, okay. So, yes. Why don't you get the hell out of here?
That's a good idea.
All right. Mr. Danny Balis, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Alexa, good job. That was really nice. Keep it going. Oh, no, yeah. All right, we're going to try a little something. Hope you enjoy. All right, Alexa, let's cool it. Oh, Alexa. Oh, thank you. Yes, Alexa, good job. Okay. So by now you're all probably familiar with the sensation that's sweeping the nation known as ASMR. Well, I've long been fascinated by this startling phenomenon, and I always thought it might be fun to try it. Now, what I'd like to do for you today is something very special that I saw some really crazy lady do one time on the internet, where she took a bunch of old soul food and slobbered all over the mic with it. But tonight, mine has a little bit of a story I'd like to tell. As you see here, we have some delicious chicken wings. Might not be too out of the ordinary or too unique, but then we have this. Now this is a very special sauce, you see. This came from an old family recipe that I came across when I encountered a strange singing lady down in the canyons of Terlingua. And I'd like to share with you the recipe for this sauce, and then slobber near the mic so that it might cool and soothe your temperament in these troubled times. Let us begin. So for this recipe, first you want to start with 2 teaspoons of distilled vinegar. 3 habanero peppers, thinly chopped. 3 teaspoons of canola oil. 1/2 cup of aged cayenne red peppers. 1 teaspoon of paprika. 1 angry fistful of dirt and cactus needles. A pinch of salt. 3 tablespoons of diced ghost pepper. A splash of water. And a pocket full of Diablo dust. What sounds like a bold and flavorful mix. Only one way to find out. Let's try it, shall we? First, we'll take our chicken wing and we'll dip it into the sauce. And now, settle back and relax to the smooth and calming sounds of my slobbery mouth. Isn't that relaxing? Yes, just I'm afraid I'm gonna need a minute. ASMR. I think it's for the kids. Alexa, please. Ah, yes. Welcome back. Alexa, let's take it down a notch. Thank you. Well, that just about concludes our program for this evening. But I'd like to thank you once again for being here to take this wild ride. And once again, to remind you that in these dark and troubled days, if we just stick together, even through social media, through carrier pigeon, or the good old-fashioned U.S. mail, we can ride this thing out. And if we all have toilet paper, some means by which to brush our teeth, hopefully we'll emerge looking somewhat like our former selves, and with our dignity still firmly intact. So, before we leave, I'd like to conclude here with a little song I heard years ago, one that hopefully will put things in perspective, as this current invisible enemy seems to know no boundaries. It's the great equalizer, as Madonna once said. Well, there's a little black train, it's coming, coming down the track. You gotta ride that little black train and it ain't gonna bring you back. Well, you may be a barroom gambler, cheat your way through life. You can't cheat that little black train or beat its final ride. You silken ballroom ladies dressed in your worldly pride, you gotta ride that little black train and it's coming in tonight. Your $1,000,000 fortune, your mansion glittering white, you can't take it with you when the train comes in tonight. Well, get ready for your savior and fix your business right. You gotta ride that little black train and it's coming in tonight. Now there's a little black train a-comin', it's coming down the track. You gotta ride that little black train and it ain't gonna bring you back. Yes, now, isn't that a good one? Really puts things in perspective, yes? Hey Alexa, let's take it home, shall we? Well, once again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking this wild ride with us. It's the first time I've ever attempted anything like this, so if any of you out there have been viewing this and like what you see, let me know and we'll see what we can put together next time. Maybe we'll find some way to make it a little more smooth and orderly. But, who knows? I would like to take this chance to thank a few people. I'd like to thank Michelle and Franky Draper, David Blood, Paul the Amazing Armstrong, Danny Balis, Liz, Michael Richardson, Chris Holt, the Jensen family, Randy and the Jukebox gang, Robert Jenkins, Cousin Tommy, Scott Cannon and all the Canons, my brother Eric, the Hanrahans, Paint Smith, Dave Little, and Doug and Teresa. I'd also like to tip the hat to the recently fallen John Prine, McCoy Tyner, and of course, the true blue soul brother himself, Mr. Bill Withers. As we continue on through these strange times, let's hoist a glass to what hopefully will be some semblance of normalcy at the other end of this crazy, darkened rainbow. As the clouds grow ever darker, as the cruel hand of indifference runs its steely grip across our hapless days, let's all remember that we're in this together, even when we're apart. And so until we meet again, good luck and good day.